I was going to say that SEO with Fat Joe is as peaceful as this, but then the birds are all having fights.
Did you know that Google personalizes many searches by city and Also Asked is the only tool to access live People Also Ask data at city level? Try for free at alsoasked.com.
Tired of SEO guesswork? Quadra's AI agent goes deeper to uncover high-impact optimizations and completes hours of SEO in minutes. Get started now.
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody feeling? So just like Abby mentioned, my name is Clinton. I'm a performance specialist, which basically means that I help our customers, or large customers, grow their businesses by using our solutions. Really, the reason I do this is because when they make money and they succeed, I make money and I succeed. And I love that for me. I love that for them too, don't get me wrong, but I'm trying to renovate my kitchen, so I love that for me a bit more. So when they approached me to do this talk, they had asked me to speak about incrementality. But when I looked at the lineup, I saw that there were 2 people already speaking about incrementality, and I didn't think they needed to be a third. Plus, I think Liam and Marcel honestly nailed it. So I changed my talk to speak about UX and the incremental value it can have in ads. That's how I snuck it in there. See the word incremental? That's how I did it. So to that end, my talk is going to be focused on 3 main things. Explaining to people what UX is, because it often gets confused. Why it's so important, and why it's beneficial to your ads. Now, it's my hope that by the end of this talk, you take away one key action, and that is to go back to your organizations and you see the need and the importance to incorporate UX into your marketing strategy. Not as an afterthought, not as a team that sits over here that nobody talks to, but a core and critical part of your marketing strategy, because that's how people are succeeding. So let's get started. What is UX? When I started working in UX about 7-8 years ago, to be honest, I walked into a lot of meetings where a lot of the time I spent was describing what UX actually wasn't. I was in a lot of SEO meetings. No disrespect to any SEO people in the room, but it's not that. We optimize for all channels, not just organic. But UX in its most basic form is the overall experience that somebody has when they interact with your product, your system, or your service. That is it, in its most simplest form, right? But it goes beyond the functionality, it goes beyond how something looks. It's about how somebody feels about your product. It's about the perception that they have of your product. It's about everything to do with how they engage with it. That is what UX means, and that's why it's so important, right? So I'm going to run through a couple of actual examples, right? Because when it comes to what is good UX, what is bad UX, it's very easy for people to understand because we're all users of things. We all know when something is good. We all know when something is excellent. We all know when something sucks, all right? So I'm going to run you through a few examples. Suitcase on the left, not really good for UX. Anyone who's ever owned a suitcase like this, first of all, sorry, because you probably have back pain. But having to carry around something like this, especially when something is very heavy, is very cumbersome on you. You have to navigate through people. It's not easy to kind of pull up and put somewhere, right? It's a bad experience because it's very hard and cumbersome to do. More convenient to put some wheels on the suitcase. Now suddenly it's a lot easier to push. It's a lot easier to pull. You don't have to have back pain all the time. Probably saved yourself a lawsuit from dropping this heavy bag on somebody's foot. Good experience is very easy. It's something that just comes out. It's something that you shouldn't have to think about. Next example, glass ketchup bottle. Anybody that's been to Nando's knows, by the way, you never go for the one that's full. You go for the one that's almost halfway. It's easy to come out that way. But glass bottles, not very user-friendly because you can't squeeze it. And then you end up doing a lot of this and you look like a maniac. And then it still takes half a millennium for the thing to come out anyway. Not very good user experience. Enter the plastic bottle. Squeeze, ketchup goodness at your fingertips. Don't need to do this. Don't need to look like a maniac. Good user experience. Something that anybody can understand. Last example. This one I actually really hate because I'm someone that doesn't like clutter, so this really annoys me. Old school remotes, 1 million buttons. None of them are useful. None of them know what half of them do. None of them use them. My mother, who's 60 years young today, still calls me and asks me what button to press. So it's not for everyone. It's not accessible. Enter a much more simplified design, streamline it, remove all the unnecessary stuff. Much easier for somebody to learn how to use this because there's only a few buttons there. You can get a hang of it pretty quickly, right? And it removes the anxiety because this looks very complex. Somebody might think this is very complicated. It might intimidate them. This, it's easy to use. I'm going to want to use that over that. Good user experience is something that everybody can just understand, right? So that's what it is. Now, in the context of a website, I know I've just shown some examples of actual, like practical, tangible things, but the same UX rules when it comes to best practice apply when you're talking about digital experiences, right? Now, I've simplified this. There's a lot more stuff in here, but for the purposes of my talk, we're going to focus on usability and relevance as UX principles. When we talk about usability, we're talking about a smooth and satisfying experience on your site. What does that mean? Is it easy for someone to find what they're looking for? We're talking about good navigation, good on-site search, a logical site structure, and an easy-to-understand user interface. Relevance. Does the content match what I'm looking for? Right? Also, credibility. It might match what I'm looking for, but your site looks a bit dodgy, and I don't want to part with my money, and I don't want to part with my data. These are two guiding principles of UX when we're talking about websites, we're talking about digital experiences. So let's remember these because I'll call back to these a little bit later. I'm going to give you some more examples now. So, I honestly don't know what these people do. arngreen.net. But let's mark them by usability and mark them by relevance. Usability, I mean, there's a main menu somewhere here, if you can find it. But they don't really get points for that because it's not clearly laid out. In terms of relevance, maybe it's relevant for people that are looking for, I don't know, mopeds, bicycles, maybe even a headache. But it's not clearly laid out in an easy to understand way. Poor points for relevance. Take Apple. Clear navigation, very easy to find. Clear search, very easy to find. The design is very simple and focuses your attention on where you're trying to look at. Also good for relevance because if I'm looking to compare iPhone models, well, bang, I found it, right? Then you have the drop downs there. Then you can just jump into what it is you're trying to do. Yale School of Art. Let's mark them by usability and relevance, not very good. There's a main menu here somewhere. You can find it if you're looking for it, I suppose. By relevance, I guess you've landed on the right page, but if you're trying to log in or you're trying to enroll, good luck. Color hierarchy is all over the place. It's not easy, and it's not easy to find what you're looking for. It's not easy to engage with as a user. Therefore, you lose out on points. Compare that to Airbnb. Clear search, clean design. I already know what I'm meant to be doing because that's the first thing I see. It has other relevant content because it knows I'm looking for interesting places to stay. And you find all this stuff here. You get points for usability. You get points for relevance, right? So why UX? Why focus all of this time, all of this effort, all of this money into improving the UX of your site or your app, right? Again, everything is resources are finite, right? Every piece of resource you take from one thing costs resource from somewhere else. So why put it into UX? The answer is very simple. Everything leads to your website or your app. There's almost no point, absolutely no point in spending time, effort, and money funneling traffic to a site or an app that is not equipped to receive it. Everything leads there, right? If you run an online business, then any and all marketing that you do is focused on convincing people to go onto your site so they can part ways with their money or part ways with their data. If that's not up to scratch, then you're wasting money. But wait, there's more. So let's talk about brand and performance, right? I've broken this down into a bit of marketing language. So with brand and performance, with UX, if somebody has a smooth and seamless experience with your site, right, a really frictionless experience, then that's something that strengthens your brand reputation, that strengthens your brand image, right? Similarly, if they have a good experience overall, they're going to become repeat customers. They're going to tell their friends about it. They're going to keep coming back to you every single time or every opportunity that comes up. That strengthens your brand loyalty. Performance, this is pretty straightforward. If somebody has a frictionless, and I mean really frictionless experience, it's easy to find what they're looking for. Once they find it, it's easy for them to buy it. That's going to lead to more conversion rates, more sales, translates to more revenue, right? So there's more. Search is changing. Search has changed, to be honest, but search is always changing. But I put it in past tense just because in the last 12 months alone, there's been tremendous change that's been happening to our search products, and it's something that maybe a lot of people aren't aware of. So search has changed, and this is another reason why UX is more important now, more than ever. The reason why it's changed is a little thing called AI. You might have heard of it. It doesn't stand for Apple Intelligence. AI is probably one of the single most important things that's happened to technology, to our systems, to the way of life, and it's something that's supercharging our own systems, right? So this is the reason why UX is important. This is the reason why search has changed, and I'll go into 2 user trends that highlight this point. The first one, 15% of daily searches on our platform have never been searched before, right? This is one of the user trends that has resulted in us having to update our own systems, right? The answer for this is pretty simple if you think about it. Things are constantly changing in the world. There's macroeconomic shifts, there's societal shifts, there's cultural shifts. Unexpected things are happening. Arsenal is beating Real Madrid 3-0. Whatever the hell is that about? Crystal Palace actually wins matches. Unexplained things are happening all over the place. If you're a Crystal Palace fan, I'm sorry for that joke. See me after. But 15% of searches are net new. They've never been searched before, right? 12 billion visual searches are happening every month on Google Lens alone. That number is probably higher now since we last published this. But 12 billion visual searches. And if you think about the reason why, it's because with the rise of social media, with how better the cameras on our phones have become, people are getting used to engaging with visuals, right? And it's resulted in this explosion in visual search. We're also seeing an uptick in the number of people that are searching in non-traditional ways across the board. So not just searching with images, but searching with their voice as well, searching with videos as well. All of this is going on. Now, this and the previous stat I mentioned presents a problem because there's a bunch of new queries that you simply can't predict, that you cannot match. So if it was your job to manually update the keywords, you simply would not be able to do it fast enough to keep up with the rate at which keywords are being created every day. That's why we've had to change our systems. That's why we've had to lean and rely heavily on AI to capture all the relevant queries, these newer, these complex, these more specific queries, which are the type of queries you tend to have when people are searching with voice, image, and video. This is why we've had to get better. Now, where does UX fit into all of this, right? So I've just talked about how search is changing using AI, and I'm going to speak to you about a couple of features that rely on the UX principles that I mentioned before, right? The principles of usability and the principles of relevance. So first one, automatically created assets. Hands up, who's heard of ACAs? Okay, cool, about half the room, that's great. So you already know about what this feature is. So just to give like a quick explanation, with what automatically created asset really does, it's a feature within some of our campaigns that automatically generates text, image, and video assets from your website. It pulls it right into your from your website and creates these assets for you to review and to launch into your ads, right? So give an example like here. The query is skincare for dry, sensitive skin. The headline copy, shop our skin hair care line, get ready to turn heads, right? That's not as relevant as that could be. Turn on ACAs, again, pulling that information from your websites to maximize the relevance to the keyword. Skincare for dry, sensitive skin leads to a headline that says, soothe your dry, sensitive skin, start owning your glow today. So again, we have those keywords in there, right? And this is being pulled from your website and from the keywords that you currently have within your campaign. The next thing, URL optimization. Hands up who's heard of URL optimization or final URL expansion? Okay, about half the room. So you understand that this is also a feature that we have, that Google will crawl your landing pages and figure out what is the most relevant landing page to send this traffic, right? What is the best landing page to land users onto, right? Now with both of these, it's pretty obvious. If you don't have an up-to-date website with helpful, useful, relevant content, these systems won't work as effectively as they should, right? So that's why you have to update your website, and that's why you have to keep to that principle of relevancy. Make sure your websites are relevant. Make sure they have the content that people are looking for, so our systems can work optimally. Yeah. Last one, on-site navigation. It's the last feature I'm going to talk about. Now, what on-site navigation is really another way that Google is measuring the quality of an ad. Now, Google, we're constantly refining. Because our mission really is to make sure that we show the most relevant and useful ads in front of users. But we need a way to measure that something is high quality for people to look at. We launched this update Feb of this year, so 2 months ago. And what we basically did was we developed a new prediction model that takes into account how users interacted with the navigation of your website. We're now taking that into account to measure the quality of your ad. In other words, if your navigation is crap, we're going to start factoring that into how we measure the quality. And you might see some of your ads appearing less and less and less. This is something that matters. Again, this is ties back to the other principle that I mentioned, usability. So not just relevance, usability also matters. So one of the scenarios that we looked at, for example, is if someone clicks on an ad, they land on the landing page, the navigation is not up to scratch, the user can't find what they're looking for, they quickly go back to the search page. That's one of the signals that we look at that may indicate that a user didn't have a good time on your site. Okay? And we're factoring that in now. So not only do you have to have up-to-date sites that are relevant, you also have to have sites that have good navigation, i.e. good usability. Okay. So better landing pages, better ad rank, asterisks. The reason I say that is because, as most people understand, ad rank is how Google determines, one, whether your ad is even eligible to show to people, and two, if it is eligible, where it sits. Right? Now, there's a lot of factors. That's why I put the asterisk. There's a lot of factors that go into determining your ad rank. Things like competition, things like the context of the query, things like your budgets, etc. But one of the things that we look at, and we have publicly stated, is that we look at the quality, right? So again, our mission is to show the most relevant, most useful, high quality ads to users. And so one of the things we look at when determining quality score is your landing page experience. So this is something that can affect your ad rank. And generally, we've said on our support pages that, generally speaking, if you have a high quality ad, your CPCs will go down, right, at a top level. Right? That's another reason why you should be working on bettering your landing pages, making them relevant, making them usable, making sure that the users have a good time on there. This has an impact on your ads. Okay, so the last couple of slides, I'm going to be focusing on next steps, some actions that you can take. So signals of bad UX, these are more like conversation starters. These are things that you can take back to your organization to start a conversation with your IT teams or with whoever is managing your websites, but marketing teams should also be involved in this. If you're not hitting your sales target, if your CPCs are too high, like I just mentioned with the ad rank, not hitting ROAS targets, low customer sat scores. These are things that can kickstart conversations to be like, maybe the answer is to look at how good of a time people are having on our website. Are they being sat? Are they finding what they're looking for? Are they able to accomplish their goal in a much easy and a convenient, easy, simple and quick way? Right. Actions to take. The question that needs to be asked is, how are we improving our site or our app? Right. So how are we doing this today? Do we have a team in place? Do we have a roadmap of sorts? Are we structured to do this? How we future-proof this. So in that roadmap, do we have actions that look further down the line? Next quarter, the quarter after that, the quarter after that. Do we have a plan to continue to improve the performance of our website? Are we structured optimally to do this? I see this all the time where teams get very siloed, and you have the marketing folks that sit over here, and you have the people that work on the website that sit over here, and those two teams don't speak. That is a problem. If you're having a conversation about marketing, if you're having a conversation about budgets, you should be having a conversation about navigation. If you're having a conversation about creatives of your ads, you should be having a conversation about content of the website. These conversations should be happening in the same room. They should not be siloed. So make sure that you're structured optimally and you're sharing information so that you can achieve the same goal. You're all just trying to achieve the same thing anyway. They're two sides to the same coin. They're just different tactics. The last thing is kind of like catchy titles. You're the marketer. Ads is the enabler. Ads allows you to present your product and or service in front of customers. UX is your closer. All roads lead to your website or your app. The experience on there matters. It matters not just to users, but it matters to your ad metrics, which matter to your marketing objectives, which matter to your business objectives. That's what's going to convince people to buy from you. Right? The last thing I'll mention is I ran a UK-wide program about last year where the aim of the program was to try and incentivize customers to carry out UX improvements on their site long-term. It was Google funded. We paid for a large chunk of this. We partnered them with agencies to get the work done. So you'd imagine that a lot of people will take this on, given that Google is paying for it and given that all the heavy lifting is being done by an agency. Less than 15% of advertisers that we pitched this to. And I had a huge lead list. We had about 200 customers on my lead list, and then we pitched to every single one of them. Took ages, and it sucked. 15% of them, less than, signed up to our program. The reason I mention that is because that's your competitive advantage. When everyone is focusing on budgets, on creatives, on targets, on measurements, on incrementality, these things are important. No one is looking at what's happening post-click. Less than 15% of people are looking at that. So one way that you can try and kind of trigger this conversation is look at some numbers, try and forecast, look at your current conversion rate, look at what happens if you increase that conversion rate by 0.5 percentage point, from 2 to 2.5. Look at what happens when you increase it from 2 to 3, 2 to 3.1, 3.2, 3.5. Forecast this out and look at what that nets out to in terms of revenue, in terms of increased conversions. That's your opportunity cost. That is the cost to your business of you not improving your website. That is also your business case that you can take to your CFO and say, hey, look, we need to invest in this, right? I know I'm over time. Can I finish up? Yeah? Okay, cool. The last thing I'll say is if you get that number, weigh that against the cost of doing a simple UX audit. That number is bigger, probably worth the investment. Weigh that number of an incremental increase in your conversion rate against hiring a UX researcher, against launching or buying an A/B testing tool and launching a couple of tests. Again, if the number on the right is bigger than the number on the left, maybe that's worth an investment. But that's your competitive edge, and that's what's going to make a difference. Because at the end of the day, we're all sending users to somewhere. And if that experience sucks, none of them are going to convert. Your conversion is going to go down. You won't be hitting your targets. And unfortunately, you won't be able to achieve your goals. Yeah, that's been my time. Thank you.